Welcome to the inner world of filmmaking. I'm your host, Tammy Magaro. I'm an editor, podcaster, and still photographer. In this show, I will interview filmmakers in all facets of production and distribution. I'm excited to welcome Michael Horton, who is the founder of the Los Angeles Creative Pro User Group, which has now over 3,000 members worldwide. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks for having me. I've watched a few of your episodes on Spotify, and you really do a great job. So thanks for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I'm flattered to be on it with you. When you've had Timothy Good and Emily Mendez on it, it's like, wow, because we had them too.
Right, yes. Yeah, it was through your group that I asked them.
Yeah, great. I mean, there's such sweet people.
Yes,
and,
they are.
Very nice, and boy, they're giving. That's they're great pros, and they found themselves in that great spot right now where they're getting a lot of attention and they're giving back. Of course, all editors I talk to are like that. I've never met an editor ever in the 23 years I've been doing this that has been a jerk.
Right.
Never. It's really kind of nice.
Yeah, they were so wonderful, and it's just always nice to meet new people, and I just think your group is amazing. I remember it back when it was the Los Angeles Final Cut Pro User Group. I've attended when I lived in LA, I attended your group. I found it very informative. It's such a collaborative group and a great networking where it's kind of bringing great people. So I'm just curious, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and how and why you decided to start this group in 2000?
Yeah, if you recall, and I'm sure you do, when Final Cut Pro came out, the editing software, it came out in about, 1999, almost 2000. And at that point in my life, I had been an actor for about 25 years. And what I really wanted to do was direct. And this software came out and allowed you to put this thing on your laptop, plug a digital camera into your laptop, and begin editing. So it democratized the filmmaking to a point that it hasn't been done forever. And then all of a sudden, this revolution. Everybody wanted to make movies. Everybody wanted to edit movies, and including me. So I taught myself how to edit. What I felt might be able to speed my knowledge up more was to hang out with a lot of people who were smarter than me. Now, you got to remember, when this revolution was happening, it was nuts. I mean, it was a crazy, crazy time. I had met a bunch of people on this website called twopop.com, and we decided hey, we know enough people, let's start a user group and in Los Angeles. And I kind of appointed myself as the head of the whole thing. And it was really just a chance to meet each other, ask each other what the heck was going on, share information of what's wrong with the software, help each other out on movies. Huge, just from the very beginning. And we had met in a small place called Video Symphony in Burbank. It held about 25 people, and we had about 30 people show up. And so we outgrew that place immediately. And then we went to another place in Hollywood called Dr. Rostock. Lasted there for about 3 meetings, and we outgrew that place. And then we moved to Moviola and outgrew that place in 1 meeting. And finally found a home at the LA Film School for 3 years before we finally landed at the Gallery Theater at the Barnsdale Art Park. And we have been there since, I can't remember the first year, but I think we've been there probably 18 years, something like that. So, and it is a great space. It is a great venue. We're very lucky to have it. And it's been that kind of similar format ever since the beginning. It is a networking group, first and foremost. But you're going to learn something. You're going to learn new software. You're going to learn editing tips and tricks. You're going to learn coloring, all things post-production. And you're going to get a chance to learn it from the best people in the business. And also you're going to get a chance, if you have the courage, is to meet people and talk to them. And that's what this whole thing has been about. And I can't tell you how many people have gotten work just by coming to a LACPUG meeting, over and over and over again, then becoming a part of it. I mean, I don't know how much you're going to get out of it coming one time, but you're going to get a lot out of it coming several times. And that's what it's been. I've made some really good friends. Other people have made some really good friends. And as you know, in this business, networking is number one.
Yeah, and the new networking is really connecting and making friends with people. It's not just about, what can you do for me, but it's like, how can we work together?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're not going to get much anywhere. What can you do for me?
You're right. Yeah.
Nobody wants that, but eventually it's organically happens that you each, help each other. And everybody wants to help each other. I mean, there's nobody who doesn't want to help each other.
Yeah.
And it just makes you feel good. And everybody that I know in this business really does want to help you. And it really does take a little bit of courage to maybe write them an email my name is, I'm in this business. I love your work and I want to learn something from you. Do you have any time to maybe have a cup of coffee? You never know what's going to happen from that cup of coffee, but you got to have the courage to at least start somewhere. And sometimes at a LACPUG meeting, you can have that courage. And you can be talking to, A-listers who have made it, and why did they make it? Why?
Yes.
Aren't you as good as they are? Probably. But what elevated them to that in-demand A-list category? So it's one of those mysterious things. It's the same with actors and directors and anybody in the entertainment industry. Pick their brains, and everybody's smarter than you are anyway.
Well, that's how you learn and grow. Is like we all have knowledge, and this is an opportunity to sit with people and talk to them. And also, if you're shy, you just keep going over time, and before you know it, you're getting to know the regulars that come every time, and also volunteering. I mean, I'm sure you take volunteers.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a whatever you need to do in order to feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Nobody's really uncomfortable going up to somebody and saying, "Hi, my name is," let's talk. What do you want to talk about? Oh, especially editors who are alone a lot. They're much more comfortable behind a keyboard than they are face-to-face with people. But that takes practice. You got to get out of the house. You got to go practice. It's a whole different thing than meeting virtually. And, we probably met at a LACPUG meeting, but I can't remember, but it would be a whole different experience meeting you face-to-face and shaking your hand and saying hi than it is in this situation where I see you on this screen, which is always weird to me anyway, the whole virtual thing.
Yeah.
But it's at least, it's something, but it's so much more important, so much more gratifying, and I think much more helpful to meet face to face. Yeah, we're really fortunate, and audiences also depend on the agenda. If people are interested in the agenda, then it's a full house. If it's more of a niche agenda, then it's not. But I always choose the agenda or build the agenda based on what I think people should know versus what they want to know. Occasionally, I have to pad it with celebrities and things like that just to make the money that I lost the meeting before because it was a niche type of a show. And I said, well, I got to make some money on this one in order to continue, which is always is always an issue when we get into that later, if anybody ever wants to start a user group. But we're really lucky, and we're still getting the big crowds.
Yeah. So in 2012, you changed the name to the Los Angeles Creative Pro User Group. What made you want to change the name?
Yeah, that's when if you were Final Cut user, when Final Cut 10 came out.
Yeah. That was a game changer. I'm sorry for Final Cut,
It was. If you would have just stayed with it for maybe a few more years after that, there's still an enormous amount of people using it, mostly in Europe for professional reasons. But it got such a bad reputation here in the U.S. that it's just never recovered. I produced all these shows called Super Meets, and I did that for a number of years. I'm no longer doing that, but I did that for a number of years. And Apple kind of took over one of our meetings in Vegas, and that's when they introduced Final Cut 10. And that show, it didn't go over too well. I mean, you talk about a big crowd. That was just it was like double the capacity of the room. I'm lucky we didn't get in trouble. From then on, we didn't have much choice to change it to. We had to change it to the Creative Pro User Group. But quite frankly, it was always a Creative Pro User Group. We always talked about Avid. We always talked about Premiere. We were pretty agnostic when it came to non-linear editors. However, we just gave a little bit of extra oomph to Final Cut Pro because that was what most people were using. But after Final Cut 10 came out, then it just the bottom dropped out, and we had no choice but to change the name. And I was never fond of Los Angeles Final Cut Pro User Group. It was just one of those things because it was what everybody was using, what everybody was wanting to learn. And then after 10, we became what we really always were, agnostic NLE user group.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the format of the meeting? And you said that it hasn't changed over the years, so that's great. I know you have a panel.
Yeah.
Which is good. If it works, why change it, right?
I'm too lazy.
No. So I noticed that you have a panel. Is it usually the regular panel that starts it, or do you change people?
I mean, I'm honestly hate panels. I just hate them. I think they're boring. And I honestly hate boring subjects. I don't like so much selling software. I like, if you're going to sell me software, teach me how to use it. That's going to be the kind of demo. PowerPoint slides and arrows and all that kind of is just death. And but the show starts out with a panel of about 4 people, and it's called Stump the Gurus. And quite frankly, it's one of the most fun parts of the evening for me. But the reason for doing it is to allow everybody who's getting there to find a place to park. They're running around the perimeter of the theater and trying to find a place to park. So if they miss Stump the Gurus, they haven't really missed the show. So we always started out with Stump the Gurus, and that's just a chance for people to talk to 4 experts in the industry, usually experts on post-production and networking. I mean, just about any subject you can possibly think of. And a lot gets done in that 30 minutes with these amazing people that keep changing each month. And I have a lot of go-to people that if they can make it that night, they're there all the time. But if they can't, I got a lot of other go-to people that are just as brilliant. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. I mean, it's I can always count on it being really interesting.
Yeah.
And but if people miss it, it's okay. We'll get to the full agenda a little bit later on. So, and then after that, how do I put the agenda together is by feeling. There's usually a couple of presentations before the break, probably on new software techniques, and then the break, which usually lasts 30 minutes. And I always say this is the most important part of the show. It's the break. And what do we do during the break? Well, we go out in the lobby and we say hello to each other. And they might come to the front of the stage and talk to who that was just on and ask them questions, a one-on-one, and maybe stay in the audience and ask each other questions and meet each other and talk and yak and all that kind of stuff. Then after the break is usually the headliner, whatever it may be. I don't know, but it's usually a headliner, one headliner, or if I can cram in 2, we put that in there too, because we only have a certain amount of time. And at the end of that, we have this raffle, which is always fun. I always call it the world famous raffle. And it's really just a time to get goofy and maybe win something cool. And then we go home. But yeah, it hasn't changed. in 23 years. I don't think I had a Stump the Gurus panel, though, in the beginning, but eventually I had one. LACPUG attracts a different crowd almost every month. So a lot of people are there for the first time. That was the joke back in the early days. If you come to a LACPUG meeting, you'll never come back, because it was always new people. Every show. It was always a packed house with always new people. And I never could quite figure that out. And we have our fans, but it's mostly new people.
Wow. Well, that's great. That's great that if you were a consistent, you'd meet a whole bunch of people every time, which is kind of nice.
You really could. I mean, from the people who do come consistently, it's in a minority of the audience. It's probably less than 50 people, and the theater holds about 300. We probably get about 150 to 250 people a meeting. 250 for the the big time agendas, and with the celebrities and that kind of thing. But that's still, there'd be like 200 new people and 50 regulars. So I've never been able to quite figure it out, but I like it that way. I like bringing in new people, and that's the way it is almost every meeting. It's always new people.
And
it's also skewing younger, which is another thing that's very nice. Especially with an old guy like me heading the whole thing up. It brings in a lot of new people, especially a lot of new people who just came to Los Angeles, and they're new. They want to meet people. They want to see what's going on. And here's a platform for them to do that, because there's not very many of them left, especially after the pandemic. A lot of things just closed down. I feel a kind of responsibility of trying to keep this thing going, which is not easy, because it's expensive to produce these shows. And without sponsors, it's I don't want to lose money. I'm basically breaking even. I have the time, and I have the will to put my heart and soul into these shows and not make a lot of money, because I've done pretty well in my life, so I'm fairly comfortable. However, it would be nice to make a few bucks in these things.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm doing this summer. I'm looking for sponsors, because for the first time in 23 years, we're out of sponsors, and so I'm kind of looking around and see if we can get some corporations to step up.
Yeah,
so I'm not very good at. Nobody's good at that. Nobody's good at begging for money, and that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm begging for money, and but we had done really well for years and years and years, but for reasons that I still can't explain, it sort of just all dropped off. But that's kind of the way it's been going for a lot of organizations and a lot of corporations. And, they want something for their money, but as a sponsor of this group, sponsor of LACPUG, what they're getting is they can say they're part of community. Now, is that important to them? If it is, then they'll throw me the money. And if it's not, then they want certain things that I can't give them. And it's like, I have my letter on, here's what you'll get, and here's what you won't get, and here's what you can do, and this is what you can't do. And a lot of corporations just don't go for that kind of thing. But in the past, these people wanted to be part of community. And I think there's lots of them out there who still do. Their name and LACPUG means something. The fact that we've been doing this for so long is remarkable. And it was still able to pay the rent.
Well, I mean, I think that there's opportunities for sponsorship that it doesn't seem like you're begging for money, because I think that they've got a house of 250 people that could buy their product, or service, and you can pitch it to them. I mean, I would think that that's worth a lot of money, and every...
Yeah, I mean, well, it is. And in the past, it's worked out fine without it being, pay to play kind of thing, where you get up there and you demo your software in order for hope that somebody's going to buy it. If you do that every month, then you're not going to last. It's just, there has to be, it is Creative Pro User Group. So even though you need to be technical as well as creative, and we do those sorts of things. It is a Creative Pro user group. So our demos tend to skew more creative than it is to sell. There's times where I'll give that speech to the artist who's demoing, and they won't listen, and they'll go up and do that thing. I know what I want to see if I'm out in the audience, and I know how I want to see it. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 23 years to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And for the most part, that's what most people want to do. That's most people who demo their software. That's what they want to do. They want to show you how cool this stuff is and how world changing this stuff is. And if you buy it, great. If not, okay, we'll move on.
On another note, like with the raffles, how are you getting the raffle prizes?
Yeah, that's not really that hard. Again, it's a bit time consuming. You just email the companies and say, can you donate?
Wow.
And most of them say yes. And I think they get a big kick out of the winner contacting them and say, hey, I won and I'm so excited, and send me the prize. Here's my email address, or here's my address. And I think that they like that. And we just made it an entertaining kind of event. Made people do silly things and stuff, and you get more than what you are getting. And the raffle has always been a big deal because it's just fun. And it gives everybody a chance to just get loose.
Yeah, I went to the one with Tim Goods and Emily Mendez, and I liked how you said, okay, so if we call your number, come out and act kind of like the Price is Right. Like, get excited and run down and you'll get another prize.
And show me a little joy. Show me a little happiness. Show me that you care.
Yeah.
That's a spiel to get everybody excited, because a raffle can be really boring.
Yeah.
And I think I learned this from Chris Meyer. He had this user group called MGLA, Motion Graphics Los Angeles, and he shared the theater with us. One of his raffles was, especially when men won, they just sort of saunter up and this, I'm cool, I'm not happy. And then Chris said something about it once. And so I decided to just take it a little bit in a different direction and make people get excited, because you got to entertain those people out there who are hoping to win something, because this raffle's going on forever. So entertain us. Let's have some fun. And it just stayed that way. So I always look forward to the raffle. It's my little shtick. And yeah, I'm a little game show host.
Yeah, well, they're great prizes too. So it's always like, I notice a lot of people stay till the end to see if they won or not. You'd think some people would probably leave, but no.
And then it's a bribery thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to keep them there to the end, in case that second half of the show is of no interest to them, well, the raffle might be, so that makes them stay there and watch the second half of the show. So it's it's a little bribe.
Yeah. Well, and you have a lot of raffle items. I noticed that too. It's like, and another thing, it's not like, okay, 3 things you win and then you're out of here. It's like, feels like sometimes 10 to 15.
The whole thing with the raffle is you win that prize, but if you show me some excitement and joy, you're going to win something else too.
Yeah.
So, so that I can get rid of those prizes pretty quickly.
So I'm curious, how you select your guests and topics. If you could walk us through that flow, and are you ahead of the game, like you're already booked out months, or is it month to month? And then how do you contact these big guys?
Well, first of all, I've been doing it for so long, I know just about everybody. So if I don't know the people that I would love, I know somebody who probably does. So they can contact them on my behalf, or I can ask them, can you give me an introduction, that sort of thing. The problem with having guests so far in advance is that things are moving so quickly. Probably 90% of the time, don't set the agenda until about 2.5 weeks before the meeting. So I'm constantly looking for what the big world-changing things are that particular month. And if there aren't, then I'll rack my brain and try to come up with something. And there are some times when the agenda is just not to my liking at all. It's just one of those, I have to put something together. But most of the time, it just comes together. And it's not hard getting the people that you want, because all you have to do is ask them. And if they have the time, they'll say yes. It's really that simple. How did I get Timothy and Emily? I asked them. It's, how do I get, a person like Walter Murch? I asked him. And I got, if you look at the LACPUG's past meetings, that goes all the way back to 2000, dozens and dozens of Academy Award winners. And how do you get them? How are you going to get them to show up for some goofy user group here in Los Angeles? Well, you ask them. It's really that simple. And most of them have heard of the group because we've been around for so long. Back in the early days, this is before editors became celebrities. And I think we had something to do with making editors somewhat celebrities. We would bring these working editors who had a hit movie or had a hit TV show come in and talk about what they're doing and how they do it and what makes them so good at what they do. And how'd you get them to be? Well, you just ask them. Just ask them. That's really, nobody's comfortable in front of an audience.
Right.
And especially editors. But you help them through it, and you help them feel comfortable, and before you know it, they love doing it, and then they go out and do a whole bunch more. Timothy, he's a teacher, so he's really comfortable in front of an audience, and he's so articulate. Some of the editors who have had experience teaching, they're the best.
Yep.
They're just, because how do you talk about editing? Unless somebody's asking you questions.
Yeah.
But how can you go up there and just talk editing? There's only a few people that are really good at that. Walter Murch is a really good example. You don't interview Walter Murch. He does it on his own. He comes up there and he talks about his process. And he does it very well. It's much better than having somebody talk to him about, hey, Apocalypse Now. Is that a hard movie?
Right.
But you learn so much from people like them who or love to impart their wisdom to you because they've been doing it for so long. And they just know how to do it. I would think it'd be really hard to talk about any of the crafts. Directing, acting, writing. Geez, how do you talk about writing?
Well, I guess ask the right question and then elicit the right answer or unanswer.
But what are the right questions? I don't know.
Oh, I've got
I'm
many.
not smart enough. I consider myself, I don't like technical questions. I'm a fairly good interviewer, only so that I can make the guest feel somewhat comfortable. I remember we had the great Dee Dee Allen,
wow.
number of years ago. And the first thing she said to me, as we were prepping this whole thing, she says, "I'm not technical. Don't ask me any technical questions." I go, good, because I'm not technical either. So, but most of these people are very creative and they make those creative decisions. But how do they get those creative decisions? How do they get to them? As what flashes in their head? Why cut here? Why cut there? It's really tough, and it is just, that's why they call it an art.
Yeah, it's always, though, interesting to know somebody's flow. Like, what do they start with? How do they go into it? Because you can learn so much just by the way they do things, the way they set the thing up, or tips that they've learned from other people or structures, So I am always
are you a different editor now than you were 10 years ago?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yes, because I'm always constantly learning and growing, watching what other people do, try to mimic what they do, maybe put my spin on that. It's like you're always constantly growing and learning. I don't think you're ever there. So, and I don't ever want to be there. I always want to be learning. That's why I love this platform, because I get to meet people in all facets of production, and I get to learn. I get to learn what they do, how they think, how they do things, and their words of wisdom.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I learn something new every show, and what's great about that is, oh yeah, well that's cool. I'll do that. It's like this, and you didn't know for some stupid reason, even though you've been doing it forever. Oh, that's cool. I will do that.
Yes.
That's those little kind of things. That makes a hell of a lot more sense the way I'm doing it.
Yeah, right.
You tend to get into that habit
Yes.
in those habits, even though they work for you. But when you see somebody else say, I do this and it's okay. I like that. And so that solves that stupid habit that I have that I don't want to do anymore, but I'm too lazy to do this. So it's, I agree. I mean, it's those wonderful aha moments that we all just love to see and do if you do it.
Right. Well, and I think with editors and writers, it can be a little bit in a bubble. You're by yourself a lot of the time, and you don't really have that collaboration. I mean, I think if you're doing like scripted television and film, there might be a little bit more collaboration with the directors, possibly the writer, producers. But when you're on your own doing independent stuff, sometimes you're just alone in it. And with writing, I mean, I can only imagine you're alone with it. You have to come up with the story. But when you start to talk to other people doing the same thing that you do, I just feel like, wow, it's just like, like you're saying, it's like, I didn't think about that.
What a world. But that, again, you have to be open to that, and you have to put yourself out there. You have to, go to one of these group things and go to film festivals and watch movies and then talk to the people afterwards, and which I think is really, especially if you're getting started in editing. You want to meet filmmakers.
Yes.
You want to meet indie guys and just ask them questions. That's almost more important than the networking type of groups that I do. Go to those little film festivals, and goodness knows there's one a week in Los Angeles. They're just everywhere all the time. Could cost you a pretty penny, but it might pay off in the long run.
Well, yeah, because just like you were saying with talking to like the filmmakers, the directors of these films, like align yourself to the ones you really love, like you love the way they did it, and then talk to the director because you never know when they're looking for an editor.
Sure.
And when you align to some directors, they keep you on to all of their films. So you never know.
It's part of that whole networking thing. But you're doing it for, those directors who you really like.
Right.
Or you just saw their movie and you go, holy crap, this was wonderful. I want to meet this person.
Yes.
It organically happens. It's not like I'm looking for a job sort of.
Right.
I want to know this person. I want to tell him how much I enjoyed his friggin' movie.
Exactly.
And everybody likes that. Everybody wants to be complimented, and everybody wants to know how you feel, as long as that feeling is positive.
Right. Yeah. And I was just thinking, like, as you were talking about just meeting somebody that you really like what they've done, because right there, you could ask them so many questions about how did you like capture this mood and this shot, and wow, I love this angle. Like, what made you think of that? I just think there's so much that, and it's collaboration. It's, especially.
Sure. I mean, there's, the editors go to those film festivals too, of those movies that you might like. Most film festivals, in fact, especially the smaller ones, there's so many bad movies, but occasionally there's this absolute gem. And it might not ever see the light of day, but it's still an absolute gem. And you're fortunate enough to see that.
Yeah.
Meet the filmmaker, meet the editor, meet the people behind that film, because that's going to help you more than anything.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So, go to a lot of film festivals, even though you're just going to be, 80% of those movies are going to be crap, but there are some gems out there.
Why don't we give the audience when and where your group meets, just so that everybody knows the time, the date?
Okay. As a rule, it's the fourth Wednesday of the month. And then go to LACPUG.org and join our mailing list, which is, kind of a goofy thing that I send out, like the next meeting kind of stuff. It used to be a really long newsletter, and I got tired of doing that. You'll know the next meeting, you'll know the agenda, you'll know if you want to come, or those world-changing pieces of software. That's what brings in the big crowds. But you got to do those other meets, teaching you the things that you need to know as not only a filmmaker, but as an editor.
And then what time does the group meet at?
It starts at 6:45 with Stump the Gurus, that panel, and then goes to about 10 o'clock. Yeah, so, or as I say, goes until you drop.
I love it.
It's a long meeting.
So
But it's entertaining.
It definitely is very entertaining, and you get every time I've gone, you've gotten a great crowd. It's a great place to meet new people. I did meet some people there, and it was like...
Now, you live in San Diego, right?
Yeah, I used to live in LA for several years, and then I moved back to San Diego.
So you drove up for the meeting?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Yes, I did.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you had a great panel. So I was like, of course I'm going to go. I know people in LA, so it's just a reason to come up, But I'll go up for shoots too, so it's not like...
That was a good show. That was a really good show. There was a lot of really good people, a lot of good editors and a lot of working editors, and also so articulate. They were so good. You got a good one. And now that whole show is up on the LACPUG YouTube channel.
Oh, great.
Which I should mention. Yeah, just go to YouTube and type in LACPUG. A lot of our past meetings are up there.
So any closing thoughts you want to leave our listeners with today?
No, I mean, just, if anybody out there if you want to shoot me an email and talk to me about sponsorships, that's what I'm going to be doing for the next few weeks. And again, if you're new to this industry, or even if you're not, you want to go to events like this. You'll not only learn something, you'll meet really good people that are like-minded, and you make a few friends, and maybe those friends will change your life.
I agree. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been a blast, and come. I know it's a long drive, but I hope you come to another LACPUG meeting.
Of course I will.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to get out there and make a film. Reach out to your local filmmakers group to get involved and connect. Please subscribe to the show if you like it, and follow me on Instagram @TammyMcGarrow. Until we meet again, what's your story?